The study that I chose was about sexual compulsivity, and this is for co-occurring psychosocial health problems and HIV risk among gay and bisexual men. The objective of this study was to evaluate whether sexual compulsivity is one of several co-occurring psychosocial health problems that increase HIV risk among men who have sex with men, also known as MSM. The background of this study, the researchers, they've demonstrated that individual connections between sexual compulsivity and psychosocial problems that have also been identified as systemic factors related to HIV risk among MSM. Studies have not focused on sexual compulsivity as a potential systemic factor related to HIV sexual risk and HIV prevalence among MSM population. The researchers wanted to assess whether and how sexual compulsivity fits into the systemic framework. Now, just to give some definitions of these terms, so a systemic occurs when multiple epidemics and risk factors interact and connect with one another, compounding the risks and consequences of disease. In this case, we're going to be looking into HIV. Sexual compulsivity is characterized by sexual fantasies and behaviors that increase in intensity and frequency over time so as to interfere with personal, interpersonal, or vocational pursuits. So this is also known as sexual addiction or hyposexuality. This type of study was cross-sectional street intercept method that involved surveying 2,361 gay and bisexual males at various community LGBT community events. The methods of this study, the research team, they host a booth at various LGBT community events in New York City. The recruitment strategy required a member from the team to approach each person who passed the booth to participate in filling out a survey. The survey required about 15 to 20 minutes to complete, and the response rate was pretty high. 82.9% of the people they approached consented to doing the survey. And as for incentives, they were giving a voucher for free admission to a movie. Now, some inclusion and exclusion criteria. Out of that 2,361 men, they only took the 669 people who completed the version of the survey that included the complete set of measures analyzed by the study. There were no significant differences in the demographic characteristics with participants. As for the measures, the study, they looked at the participant characteristics such as age, sexual identity, education, HIV status, race, and high-risk sexual behavior. And as for the psychosocial health problems, they used the Center for Epidemiological Studies depression scale for evaluating depression. They also used partner violence, and this was defined as the experience of any form of violence in the past 5 years with a primary partner. Childhood sexual abuse was the experience of being forced or frightened by someone into doing something sexually with a partner more than 10 years older than them. So this was a person who was 16 years or younger. As for evaluating sexual compulsivity, they used a scale, and for that, scores 24 and above indicated sexual compulsivity. Now, the analysts, how they analyze the data, first, the prevalence of each psychosocial health problems was computed. And then the bivariant odds ratio for each pair of variables was calculated to determine if the 5 psychosocial health problems clustered together. And then the multivariant logistic regression models was used to create separate profiles of MSM who reported high levels of poly drug use, depression, childhood sexual abuse, partner violence, and sexual compulsivity. The HIV seropositivity and high risk sexual behavior prevalence was calculated for each possible count score of the psychosocial health problems. Then the researchers used the Menzel test for the linear association and Y to test the strength and direction of the association. As for the results, the data revealed a high prevalence of psychosocial health problems. So I have a table here just taken from the study. This is just an example of the results that they had. 47.4% men showed depression symptoms. 21.5 men experienced partner violence in the previous 5 years. 19.3 indicated symptoms of sexual compulsivity. 10.2 had experienced sexual abuse as a child, and 8.4% men had engaged in poly use in the past 90 days. Now we're going to look at the bivariant association and odds ratio. I have an example on the side there for these results. So all for the childhood sexual abuse, psychosocial health problems were all significantly and positively related to HIV, seropositivity, and high-risk sexual behavior. For example, those who engaged in high-risk sexual intercourse had 2.25 higher odds of reporting symptoms of sexual compulsivity and 2.11 higher odds of experiencing partner violence than did other respondents. Now, as far as the addictive effects of psychosocial problems, I have a table of a bar chart demonstrating those results. The greater number of health problems were significantly and positivity associated with HIV infections and current high-risk sexual behavior. So 4.7% of men experiencing no psychosocial health problems were HIV positive, 11.4% who reported one problem, 13.2% reported two problems, and 25.4% reported three or more problems were HIV positive. So for both the HIV seropositivity and high-risk sexual intercourse, the Mentel test had a linear bilinear association were significant at less than 0.001. So this basically showed a strong association of people who were HIV positive and those who engage in high-risk sexual behavior. As for discussions, in the bivariant analysis, sexual compulsivity was significantly related to 3 of the 4 other systemic factors. In the multivariant models, it was significantly associated with depression and partner violence. There were strong interrelationships among psychosocial health problems. And when sexual compulsivity was treated as a systemic factor, strong addictive associations were found. The experience of multi-systemic factors was significantly associated with high-risk sexual behavior in those who were HIV positive. Some limitations of this study was that to measure sexual compulsivity, there wasn't any diagnostic criteria or any formal criteria for detecting the symptoms. The questions of the survey were quantitative and closed-ended. Some of the responses to the survey might have been biased by social desirability, which could explain some of the missing data about sexual behavior. And the data found couldn't be generalized to all the MSM population because this was only surveying men who happened to be at these community events in New York City. As for the conclusions, data provide evidence that multiple factors affect risky behaviors in MSM, and HIV prevention strategies that provide a comprehensive approach may be effective for working with this type of population. So some examples of a comprehensive approach for this type of population would be to have providers, clinicians offering therapy, or pharmacological treatment for persons with sexual compulsivity or depression, having counselors leading group-based approaches to address sexual risk reduction in MSM, and media campaigns that will minimize stigma related to being a sexual minority. These are just some examples that the study included about ways to work with this type of population. And these are my references. I don't think that the study left out too much. I will say that for some confounding factors, it could be some, due to the study just being for a survey, there can be other factors that they might not have found that might have played a part of this particular study. And also, since they only surveyed people at these events, you really didn't account for those who were not at these events. So it may be a certain type of people who don't go to these events might be in that population, MSM population. Then for those who didn't attend these events, it could only be probably a certain group of people, MSM population, that go to these events. So as it said, you really couldn't generalize this for all MSM. And that concludes my study here. I want to thank you for listening and have a good day.